Okay, so this is a video. A lot of guys in the survivalist thing doing the bug out bag videos. This is one of my bug out bags. Now, one of the issues I'm running into on this is obviously it looks paramilitary. Okay, my last few years in the military, I was dealing with a chain of command that was kind of hostile to guys having their own gear, and they were really backward thinking on that kind of thing, obviously. And if you owned your own gear that was exactly the same as military issue, it didn't matter where you bought it, they considered it stolen government property. So if you had an extra Alice pack, if you had an extra sleeping bag, and it was exactly the same as government issue, they had a problem with it. The other thing I ran into in my last 2 years in the military is the Alice pack fit me really badly. So I was using custom backpacks before most people were because I'm in my 40s and I'm good and strong and I have a good back, and I know a lot of other guys that were humping the same hills that were using that fucking Alice pack, and they're all screwed up. But the Alice packs, and a lot of military packs in general, one of the things they're actually not half bad for is keeping in a vehicle. And a lot of that things that make a backpack a good vehicle pack but a bad one to wear on your back is how far they stick out to the back. Okay, see how the front to rear on that's pretty far by the time we get to the outside pockets. Now, I can strip all these outside pockets off of this thing, and actually it's not a huge pack. And I don't have anything attached to the bottom. And I can attach stuff to the bottom of this, but when I'm looking at a vehicle go bag, I really got very little in the way of any kind of blankets or any of that kind of stuff in here. I've got a lightweight, slightly undersized fleece blanket in here because it's smaller than a poncho liner and seems to pack in a smaller space. James Yeager in his video talks about how the vehicle go kit's usually going to have one go bag that a team would actually share, and then one pretty full-size medic bag, which I'm going to go over in another video. But he's got better videos than I do on a lot of this stuff, so I'm just going to put my own little aspect on it, not so much dealing with the contents right now. But on the external side of the pack, when you set up a pack that you're going to wear long distance versus a vehicle go bag, bug out bag, it is going to be different. Vehicle go bag, the thing I really want is I want a lot of stuff externally that I can reach. Okay, my little medical thing I can reach externally. These little pouches here, that actually contains a water bottle. I've got an external canteen here. One of the things you really want to look out for is not depending on camelbacks all the time. They can rupture, they can have problems. A lot of times you're just better off having water bottles, or if you use a camelback, you don't carry spare bladders around. All of your other water goes in canteens. The other thing you got to look out for is these types of bottles aren't incredibly durable. They can burst if you throw the pack around. But for storage, I'm finding it's a little better to keep the water like that than inside the canteen. Seems to stay fresher. The other thing that happens, especially if you have passengers in your vehicle, normal civilian life, but I hate to say it, we ran into this a little bit in the military too, is that even if you're careful not to have high value stuff on your pack, like you'll notice those bright yellow radios, those are inexpensive FRS, GMRS radios. Okay, I think I paid like $5 each for those things at a flea market. The pouch costs more than a radio's. And if I'm going to be convoying with somebody, or we got to break out of the vehicle, and I want to have radio communication, it's just very, very important. So I actually have spare radios for handing out, because a lot of times people I'm hanging out with or rolling with or working with, they don't have two-way radios, they have cell phones, and I keep extra two-way radios around. I'll keep water in different containers. Again, I'm one of those people, I don't like people drinking out of my canteen. I don't like to drink out of other people's canteens. So the large canteen is me. The water bottles are something I would hand out, okay? And then I'll keep one knife on the bag. Now, obviously, that knife can't be reached if you're just wearing this backpack hiking around. But if you keep this at a campsite, and most of the time you're not wearing the backpack, I find it's a little more convenient just to have the knife on the pack where I can go over to it and reach it and use it as a tool. It's not my primary fighting knife. It's not really, I'm not using that particular knife as a weapon. That's a camp utility tool. If I feel so threatened that I need to wear it, I can pop it off of the molly webbing there and put it on my belt. The rest of the time, for utility use, I'm just going to have it like that. And my last few years in the military, I got to the point where I wasn't really carrying a fixed blade knife all that much. I had a Applegate folding combat folder, which is a pretty large folding knife. In fact, I've misplaced it. I don't even know where it is right now. But I had actually a couple of them, and I can't find them. But they're a large folding knife that's a really good knife. Right now, I usually carry a little bit smaller pocket knife just because I don't want to upset people I'm working with. So I carry a smaller knife at work. But here's one of the problems in the civilian environment, and I hate to say it, but again, getting back to my last couple of years in the military, sometimes the guys that are jumping in your truck are not always cool people, and they will get their fingers in your shit, and that's not cool. So if you're a high dollar contractor and you're through very carefully vetted people, it's normal to have people around thousands of dollars worth of your gear. In the civilian world, or actually in active duty military, National Guard, you kind of got to look out for that, okay? You don't want people finger fucking in your gear. Especially if, let's say I have a blank spot on this right now where a night vision bag would go, okay? That doesn't stay on there, all right? That stays locked up. But when you have all this stuff and you're just going straight cargo rig, or in civilian use, let's say you don't want the public to see everything that's on your gear, you have Alice pack covers. Okay, these you can get at surplus store. It's basically a bag. I'll show in the next little snippet how it goes on. You get them in usually the old chocolate chip camo pattern, and then woodland. I'm not sure if it comes in ACU, but I don't try to own anything in ACU anyway. I kind of like multicam. I'm just not sure if anyone makes a pack cover in a multicam. But by the time you get one of these kind of mid-size molly packs, whether it's Blackhawk or Spec Ops brand or TAC Force or Condor, they all tend to run pretty close to the same size, which is your airline carry-on size max. One thing to realize, though, that if you start attaching all these pouches to the outside and then you go to use that as an airline carry-on luggage, it's too big, okay? The other thing is, the last time I flew with military gear or airline, we were bypassing all that security checkpoint stuff. We didn't deal with that. Nowadays, as a civilian, there's no way you're going to get through an airport with this rig anyway. So this entire pack would be put in a cardboard box and then checked in. There's no way it goes on a carry-on in any way, shape, or form. In fact, you'd even have a problem with this being on a turntable at the airport. One way you can deal with that, though, is you put the Alice pack cover on there, right? And then when you're traveling, you wrap that bad boy with that tape. I know it kind of sucks. You'll have a little bit of that tape glue left on your shit. But it's one of the ways you can get to, you can get this stuff through there, wrapping it with tape like that. The TSA people might bitch, moan, and complain, but the thing is, they can x-ray this thing and see everything that's in there. And but Alice pack covers, pretty good utility thing, and for that little added sense of security, they're not going to keep anyone from getting into your stuff, but it keeps it from being really easy, especially if you're in the vehicle too. You just want to make sure nobody's easily getting into your shit. Use these Alice pack covers. And if somebody out there in YouTube land wants to clue me into where I can get some of these in some different colors, I want to get one. It's like in a civilian looking color, like maybe blue, dark blue or something like that.